Yeah, good. Yeah, I love the smile. Depth of the soul.
Thank you.
Hi there, viewers. Today I'm joining a conversation with author R.I. Polsgrove, the author of Death of the Soul. It's a pleasure to
Yeah.
have Polsgrove on the show. Welcome on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This is my book,
Yeah.
and yeah, Death to the Soul, and I wrote it, obviously.
That actually sounds
It's
very good.
super
And yeah, and I want to say that that's a very beautiful cover.
cute. Thank you. My cover artist, Lynn Therian, I think that's how you pronounce her name.
Mm,
But I just call her Lynn. I think her actual name's like Leslie or something, but
yeah,
I just call her Lynn.
that's great. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Rivers, could you tell us about your book, Death of the Soul, the Dead Soul
Yeah.
series book? How does it come about? What inspired you to write the book?
Trauma.
Oh,
Trauma, abuse. Yeah. So Death to the Soul actually started out as an erotica. I'm gonna give you the whole story here. Started out as an erotica, but I didn't like the characters. I didn't like how mean everyone was to each other. I was like, because I just thought that's what you're supposed to do when you're writing erotica, and I wanted to try something new. Anyways, it didn't work, so I put it in a drawer for a while, and I just didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to deal with it. So I have been being disorder from an insanely abusive childhood growing up. I went to this creepy cult school. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but yeah, creepy cult school run by someone who was not appropriate with children. Let's put it that way. Not appropriate with
oh,
children, and so I've been struggling with a lot with this in the past, and I've been struggling with abuse from my family and abuse from this guy. And I just got to a point where I was ready to check out early, if you understand what I mean by that.
mm,
Um, but I was getting ready to go, and I was like, you know what? Why am I the one? Yeah. So I just realized they need to be the ones held accountable. They should be the ones that are suffering for the actions, but they're not. So I didn't want to go down quite yet. I'm like, you know what? If I'm going down, I'm taking those insert expletive with me.
mm, yeah.
so So I went back to Death to the Soul and I started to revise it and write more about, expand on the characters, and I made it less raunchy. I mean, it's still got certain spicy parts in it, but I changed it a lot. And as I was writing, I started to feel a lot of compassion for my characters,
Oh,
and some of the things they went through. And I realized, hey, that's the stuff that I went through. That's me extending compassion and feeling compassion for myself. And
oh,
it's like, I don't hold my characters accountable for anything that happened to them. It's like, so why would I hold myself accountable to for what happened to me?
oh,
So
oh.
I wrote a dedication, and yeah, you'll have to read the book to get to read it, but it's basically an open letter to one of the people who abused me, and it basically says, like, I'm not ashamed of what happened to me, and yeah.
Oh,
Sorry, that was really long.
that's actually great. That's quite great. And, it's quite fascinating to know that, through the trauma you've passed through actually inspired you to put this work together. That's very good.
Yeah.
And I'm very hopeful that to help people in similar situation. Now, I want to ask you, Rivers, for readers like me who haven't read the book yet, without giving too much information away, could we have a sneak of what you'd expect picking up Death of the Soul?
Yes. Would you actually like me to read a little bit of it?
Absolutely, that'll be fine. You can.
Awesome. So let's see here. I'm gonna read. What part do I want to read? Let's read a bit with Lucas, because Lucas, oh my goodness, he's a little gremlin, but we all love him. All right, fine. The Lucas part. This is in chapter 1. Page starts on page 19.
Okay.
When he arrived at the park, Lucas was lazily spinning on the tire swing, toying with the camera around his neck, clearly bored. What took you so long? Lucas asked, snapping a picture of Quinn. Quinn shielded his face. She lives on the other side of town, he replied. Lucas hopped off the swing and adjusted his fingerless gloves on his hands. What? You took her home? Then you drove away? This isn't like you, Lucas sighed as they walked under the rusty monkey bars. The moonlight that washed over their cadaverous skin made them look like ghosts in the streetlight. Lucas lifted himself up and hung upside down, snapping a few pictures. Quinn, smile! Quinn glared into the lens. Good enough, Lucas said, climbing down. I know humans are food, but it becomes incredibly hard to kill them once you know their name. And I met her family, her incredibly abusive family, Quinn
Oh,
said.
wow. Wow, that's beautiful. That's a very great side you're
So,
reciting. I love that.
thank you. Um, Lots of vampires, lots of gore, lots of blood, lots of killing, but also a lot of really sweet relationship dynamics.
Hmm. That's great. Now, I also want to ask you, Rivers, from reading the book's description page of Grimm on Amazon, I think Grimm is another book that you've authored so far. So, from reading the description
Yeah.
page of Grimm on Amazon,
Yes.
you mentioned that it's a story of three people being escorted to the afterlife, and it contains content like death, illness, suicide, loss of child, and abuse. I'm curious to ask you about this. What inspired you to write, Green?
So I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw this really cool picture of the Grim Reaper portrayed as an older woman, like touching or kissing the head of a child.
Mm,
And I wanted to explore that a little more. Like, I wanted to explore this different side of the Grim Reaper and death. And so I just started writing. And also, Grimm is extraordinarily short. It's three very short stories.
yeah.
It's not like a full out novel. So, yeah, of
Yeah, I noticed that too on Amazon. And thank you for mentioning it and talking a bit about that. Now,
course.
Rivers, as authors, we'll all have different way of reacting to feedbacks and criticism. I just want to know your opinion. How do you react to negative feedbacks of your works, if you've ever had one in time past?
Well, it really depends on who's giving me the feedback and why, and if it is constructive criticism or non-constructive criticism. There's a big difference, and as an author, you gotta learn to tell the difference between the two.
Absolutely.
So, if it's
Yeah.
a friend or an editor telling me, "Hey, this part doesn't work. There's a plot hole here," then I say, "Okay, thank you," and then I go read it and I think on it and I either make the changes or I don't. But if it's just some rando on the internet saying, "Oh my gosh, your book sucks. I don't like it." It's like, okay, that's great. That's your opinion. A lot of other people like my work, and everyone likes different things.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's very necessary for we authors to be able to discern the voice of feedbacks from readers to know if it's constructive
Yes.
or if someone say it out of jealousy or hatred or something like that. So it's very, very important for we as authors to be able to understand the voice, to discern, to know that
Mm-hmm.
this is coming from this angle and this is coming from
Mm-hmm.
this angle
Exactly.
because actually criticism can really hurt human being. Things about it, it might kind of bring your spirit down and all of that. So I think it's
Exactly.
very important for we to be able to understand what exactly come up with such kind of feedback and criticism. So thanks for adding that too. That's
Of
much
course.
appreciated. Yeah, Rivers, also, could you tell us about A New Night too? I think is a second book in the series of the Dead Soul, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. All right. So A New Night is obviously book two in the series. And it, well, I always encourage my readers to read Cora, Midnight Kiss, and Quinn before you read Midnight Kiss. Oh God, A New Night before you read A New Night, because it provides some important context to the character, especially to the characters, including Quinn. Quinn's
Mhm.
backstory gives a lot of understanding of why he reacts to certain things. And I mean, the other thing too is that Cora and Midnight Kiss are really, really short. So
Oh,
these
oh
two,
wow.
yeah, so these
Yeah.
two will not take up too much of your time. Quinn is
Mm.
a full length novel, so that one might take a bit more. But yeah, so again, these two are very short. Anyways, back to A New Night. So yes, A New Night kind of is a continuation of this, and it follows Quinn and Rianne's relationship as it grows and changes and matures. And part one is a lot of like kind of like slice of life thing, and then part two
Yeah.
is when the big drama hits,
Oh,
which
wow.
there is. I don't want to give too much away. It really starts to go. It really goes off in part two, and
Oh,
then there's a
wow.
massive twist at the end. So
That's great. And this also want to make me to ask about this. Could you tell us a bit about the other series too, Into the Darkness? I'm sure you have that
yeah,
too.
yeah. So Into the Darkness is the backstories of my characters, and the current Into the Darkness books I have out are Cora, Midnight Kiss, Quinn, and Archie. Cora follows a lot of the side characters in Quinn's backstory. I realize that sometimes with books, if you have too much going on and you're introducing too many characters, it can really slow down the pace.
Hmm.
So that's why I wrote this. I wanted to give enough time and space to these characters, to these kind of like side characters to grow and bloom, and so the readers can understand them when you see them in Quinn. And in Quinn, there's a lot of drama carried over from this. And yeah,
Wow.
it doesn't all directly involve Quinn, but it does affect him. And like I said, these two are very, very short.
Short, I can see.
So
Yeah, really. Yeah,
yeah. And
really.
Archie is about the same length as this. So again, short, quick, easy
Yeah,
reads.
concise and brief. That's great,
Yes.
Rivers.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm also curious to know if you've experienced any challenges while writing your books. I know that writing can be very time consuming and have some bit of challenges attached to it. So could you tell us what challenge you experienced while writing your books, how you were able to overcome it and navigate through it?
So one of the hardest things for me for writing would be imposter syndrome, where I write and I'm automatically like, oh my God, this is the worst thing in the world. I'm a terrible human being. I'm a terrible writer. And
Mm,
I've kind of had to navigate that with a lot of positive self-talk, even if I don't believe it. Like, okay, chances are this book is not the worst book in the world. Chances are there's probably like a few that are worse than yours. Um, but yeah, you just gotta, positive self-talk, learn to be nice to yourself and learn to accept your work for what it is. And yeah, and I mean, especially as a new writer, as a new
mm,
author, I mean, I published like 6 or 7 things. I'm not necessarily new to this anymore, but when I
mm,
was, there was so much self-doubt and I guess shame, because I was a new author and the stuff was things and the stuff I was writing wasn't, I guess, up to professional standards.
mm.
So I always felt, you know, yeah, and but little did I know that writing terrible, horrible, awful things is an important step in the writing process, and it helped me to publish and write this. So
Yeah, that's great. And I can really understand what you mean by imposter syndrome. Most people have this feature of, thinking what they've written is not that good and all of that. And sometimes they might want to rely on people's feedback and opinions. Said, "Ah,
Mhm.
what do you think of my book? Is it fine?" I understand that. The kind of feeling can be very, very funny. Now, Rivers, apart from the six titles that you've published so far, do you have other works that you are currently working on or you're looking forward to getting out?
So the one I'm working on right now is called Blood and Brains, and it was originally supposed to be a B plot in A New Night, and it was supposed to follow Lucas and Natalie, my other two characters.
Oh,
But
wow.
I realized it was really slowing down the pacing of A New Night. Like it was just cutting into some really important emotional parts. So I decided to scrap it from A New Night, and now it's going to be its own thing. It's looking like it's going to turn out to be a novella. So like 30,000 words or something. So half a novel. So probably going to be around the same length as Cora. Um, but yeah, and I'm really excited because I'm getting to explore my character, my other like side characters in such an interesting way. Like you're going to see Archie and Connor in this book from, Archie. You're going to get to see Travis, Kevin, Lucas and Natalie, and I get to explore all those juicy relationship dynamics, and it's going to be so much fun.
Oh, wow. That's great. I love that. I really love the sound of that. Now, Rivers,
Thank you.
could you tell us what is publishing in your own point of view? What are the challenges you've encountered in terms of marketing your books? And what are the mediums you've utilized so far in promoting all of the books you've written?
Oh God. Oh my God. Publishing is the biggest headache and I absolutely hate it. My one talent is writing. That's it. I'm very bad at advertising and business things. I'm so bad at it. It's like the worst thing ever and I hate it.
Oh, wow.
And it's just not in my wheelhouse, not my talent. But honestly, one of the hardest things that I've had to deal with is marketing because as a self-published author, I have
Yeah.
to be like, random person, give me your time and give me your money and risk your time and money on a self-published author that you don't know. And you don't know if you're going to like, you don't know if it's going to turn out to be a waste of money. Oh man, it's a pain. So one of the things I did is I
Beautiful.
actually made I made this free on the Dead Soul store so that people can kind of so people can have access to it for free and know what they're getting themselves into and know if they want to continue reading the series. Um, so yeah, because I just feel like there's so much competition and there's so many published and self-published authors out there that
Absolutely.
you know you never know what you're going to get. So I wanted to give the opportunity for my readers to know what they're getting into, and I just feel like it's polite, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And then another thing I used is I have these little teeny tiny comics out that I'm hoping will get people interested in reading the book, like a comic book. I don't have the money or the time to do that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and last thing, self-publishing is expensive. That's been another thing, and I'm probably never going to break even. That's okay. I'm not doing this for the money, but just a forewarning for any other self-published authors out there, it's expensive.
Well, I love the way you whispered and let them know it's expensive, so you gotta take your time. It's expensive. That's really fun, Rivers. Thank you so much for talking about that. And it was very fun and quite inspiring to hear all of your thought about this. Now, I just want to ask you, is there anything that you love the viewers to know about your books that we couldn't mention in this interview and you'd love the viewers to know?
So writing this book has been it's so meaningful to me, and I put so much of myself in this, and
Wow.
the reasoning behind writing this is to help other people. And I want people to be comforted. And I also want to challenge people who've never experienced abuse.
Oh,
Because
wow.
I'm hoping that people will get mad about it and angry enough to hopefully start to demand change, to make it harder for these disgusting people to get away with it. Because right now, that school that I mentioned before, it's still open and there are still children at risk and it is really horrifying. So again, so I want this to spread awareness, and even if police don't get involved, because I went to the police and they didn't get involved,
Mm,
at least it'll make it harder for him to get away with it, because he'll have like a bunch of people like watching him really closely.
absolutely.
So yeah.
It's very great. I really love
Thank
your
you.
ideas, your mission, and all of this. They are very, very intriguing. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Now, Rivers, as a published author, what sort of advice do you have for other writers who are still yet to publish a book like yours? What do you tell people in this category?
Ooh. So I would tell people, figure out why you want to publish and then make a plan. So there are some people who publish for the money, who try to make a living, and that's fine. If you want to go into writing as a career, that's fine. That's completely valid. However, you need to take a different approach than you would if you want to publish like a creative work. So if you want to make money on this, the best route to go would be traditional publishing, which would mean you'd have to go to a publishing house. Here's the thing though with publishing houses, traditional publishers are not looking for creative, new, exciting. They have to run a business. They're looking for things that have been done before. They're looking for something that they know is going to sell. Again, because it's a
Mm,
business and they don't want to take many risks on these like on like space pirates or something.
I
You know what I
understand.
mean?
Yeah.
It's and it's a risk. So you need to come in with an attitude of, okay, this is a business. This is meant to turn a profit.
Mm,
And that's going to constrict some of what you can and can't write about. And I would also suggest doing market research. Now, if you want to write to tell a story that you had in your head that's really creative, then I would suggest going the self-publishing route. However, know this, it is extraordinarily expensive because you have to put the bill for editing. And yes, you need an editor. You need an editor because if you
absolutely.
don't have an editor, you're gonna have a lot of things that are slipping through the cracks. You might have plot holes, and again, but you got to be careful because there are some people out there that try to take advantage of new authors. Be really, really careful and find a rep. You're also going to have to, pay for any advertising and pay for any cover art you may want, unless you want to do the cover art yourself. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work, and yeah. So just be
Thank you.
honest with yourself and know what you want to do.
Yeah, that's quite a bunch of an advice. I really appreciate that you mentioning all of these. That's very great, and I'm hopeful that the viewers, even including myself, would love to utilize it. So, Rivers, where can readers get a copy of your books? Where is it available on?
So this is available on Amazon. Everything's available on Amazon. And I also have the Dead Soul store where I have Death to a Soul available for free. And I have Quinn available for free. The reason I have Quinn available for free is because it can get extremely disturbing at points. And it would feel weird charging money for people to like read it all and then come away like, oh my God. But another thing I have with Quinn is I have summaries of each chapter. So if you get to a point where you're uncomfortable reading, you can
Mm,
go to that summary and then resume where you left off.
absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah. And also on my Dead Soul store, I offer my books as signed copies for a little bit of an extra fee, but I figured it was a cool way to like connect with my readers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's really great. Thank you so much for mentioning that. And I've left a link in the description part of this interview for viewers who would love to get a copy of Rivers Postgrove books on Amazon. So thank you so much, Rivers, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
That's
This is my
fantastic.
first interview.